Hello, my name is Aušra Dubonikė. Today I'm happy to talk with Professor Jody and Dr. Egel about global leadership for sustainability as manifested through spiritual leadership. Ella is a business mentor. As a mentor, she specializes in helping women start new businesses and enhance their human and professional capacity. Her practice is informed by her scholarly research on female leadership and entrepreneurship, sustainability, and spiritual leadership. Ella is also a fervent community supporter. Among other initiatives, she co-founded She Hustles Africa to assist local women entrepreneurs solve business challenges and grow. Close to her heart lies girls' education in developing countries. Jody is a Regents Professor of Management and Leadership at Texas A&M University Central Texas and the Program Director of Master of Science Program in Leadership for Sustainability. He is the author of 2 books, the founder of the International Institute for Spiritual Leadership, and a commissioned spiritual director. His present research, consulting, and executive development interests are focused on maximizing the triple bottom line through spiritual leadership to co-create a conscious, sustainable world that works for everyone. In 2015, I heard about spiritual leadership and got passionate about the topic. The same year, I was enrolled in Executive Master of Management program and did my thesis on spiritual leadership in Lithuanian business and public sector companies. Now I feel an invitation to continue with the spiritual leadership and arrange seminars, courses, workshops that would help managers and all sorts of professionals to foster their spirituality and grow in leadership. Jody and Ella, I am very happy that you're joining this conversation today.
A pleasure, thank you.
Issues concerning sustainability are really urgent and globally widespread. It's estimated that the planet's population will increase from 6.7 to 9 billion in the next 30 years. We are currently depleting the world's resources nearly to 2 times faster than they can be replenished by nature. And 30% of the world's population lack clean water and basic hygiene. And this is very unsustainable. In 2015, United Nations member states adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And at its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries in a global partnership. Ella, I would like to ask you, what are the Sustainable Development Goals and are they successful?
Yes, thank you, Aušra, for the question. I think they are very ambitious objectives, goals, about what we need to achieve. And in that sense, yes, they were important, setting them and also having the accord, the agreement at a global level. But of course, there are issues behind that, because the global sustainable goals, I think we have to link the whole effort from with 1992, when we had the Rio Earth Summit, which was the first actually global summit that wanted to create a new agenda for a new blueprint of collaboration internationally. The problem with the SDGs is already their name, because they are called Sustainable Development Goals. And the word development implies that we continue functioning in the way that we are. That is, we can always develop, we can always consume, and we don't take into consideration the fact that our resources are not infinite. And maybe we need to create a different mindset on how to approach actually more it's management of our resources in that sense. And this is the main issue. And this has been shown, for example, I have here some statistics that they show, the latest statistics from the UN, they show that despite the SDGs, despite this effort, that is actually we have today a greater number of people who are suffering, more environments that are being degraded, and the life support systems for both current and future generations are being seriously compromised. So maybe this is the time to look into the issues at a deeper level. And this is where actually, I think Jody and I come in with our work, mainly Jody's work on GLFS, on Global Leadership for Sustainability.
So Jody, what solution could be proposed to address this problem?
Well, ultimately, based on our work of, golly, over 20 years now on spiritual leadership, the answer to that question it's emerged from that work. And in that discovery has really moved us to focus on sustainability rather than the other way around. And so I guess it'll be a long answer, but before I can really answer that question, I think I need to give you some background on our work on spiritual leadership. And whenever I talk to people when I'm traveling around, of course, they ask me what do you do? What are you interested in as a scholar and a teacher? And I say, well, I'm doing work on organizational transformation through spiritual leadership. And of course, they'll go, what's that? And so I've developed sort of an elevator pitch that describes it. And so basically what I do, I say, well, in one sense, it's relatively narrowly focused. It's focused on the three fundamental aspects of spirituality that we've uncovered in our work. And, and that is a sense of purpose or connected, a purpose or a sense of calling that our life has meaning and makes a difference, as well as a sense of community or belonging or membership, whereby we feel understood, cared for, and loved within a community that supports us as we pursue our purpose or go out into the world to make a difference. And then the other aspect, which is certainly inherent in spirituality, is that we cannot do this through self-propulsion, that we have to somehow find a source of strength greater than ourselves. Now, that source of strength, of course, can be religion, but it can also be nature. It can be an ethical system, and it can be this strong purpose. What is more spiritual than Mother Nature? And so the question then becomes, how do we as leaders satisfy these needs for purpose and community? And of course, and incorporate into that this need to develop our inner life. And so what we found is that basically we must bring together or develop other-centered values or caring values, where we move beyond our own self-interest and selfish interest to truly want to care about or love and serve others, or in organizations, our key stakeholders. The partnerships and sustainability that we must create and bring together all these diverse stakeholders, NGOs, governments, private businesses, communities that we operate in. How can we bring all these together to truly move forward to make a difference in terms of sustainability? So it starts with this sense of values, which we'll really focus on the rest of this podcast, to find this inner transformation to truly be more other-centered. And when we have these sets of caring or loving values, other-centered values, then we can work with others to co-create a vision or hope, faith in this vision to truly, that will then propel us toward this purpose. And then in doing this, we create this community around which we support to do this. And then, of course, in sustainability, the outcome, the most general way to describe what's sought in sustainability is to move beyond self-seeking profits or self-seeking professional gain to truly care about both the social and the environmental pillars of sustainability, which are called the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit, where we care about gender inequality, we care about inequity, poverty and inequities, and we certainly care about how can we not only sustain our world and our environment, but how can we create a flourishing world and an environment. So, so basically, I've just described both the spiritual leadership model and then the global leadership for sustainability model, which is really the spiritual leadership that we worked on for over 20 years. Only now we're focused on how can we create a more sustainable, flourishing world that's conscious. And we'll talk more about that in a minute, I guess.
Ella, I know there are 2 ethical principles for sustainability. Could you tell us about them and why are they important?
Yes, I think it is, let's say, what Jody mentioned now, which is the inner life, which is the spiritual leadership, the spirituality, which is at the core of the leader, and it's at the core of the transformation of organizations, individual transformation of organizations and societies. The ethical principles are the way, in a sense, to make them more understandable and more feasible at the collective level. I will mention them first and then I will give you an example. So these 2 ethical principles are first a remote moral responsibility to stakeholders that are distant in time and space. And second is the acceptance of stakeholder legitimacy from a moral point of view. What does it mean? It means that when we accept that we have remote moral responsibility for stakeholders who are distant in time, that is, the future generations, they haven't been born yet, and space, maybe the employees of companies in the supply chain in Africa, in places we don't see. And also that we accept that we have stakeholder legitimacy, we accept the stakeholder legitimacy from a moral point of view. That is, there are these future generations that haven't been born, for example, or the indigenous people in the Amazon. They don't have a voice to claim their rights. They cannot be heard. And also they don't influence our lives or the lives or the production and the sales of the companies in the developed countries. So if we don't take them into consideration, they cannot defend their rights. So what does it mean that for an organization, and how does a spiritual leadership at the core of this influences to implement that? First of all, in order to change the way we call this moral imagination in ethics, in order to be able to imagine how other people feel or how our children will feel when they will be born, it means that we have to expand the way that we see our responsibility. Because normally we see that we are responsible for ourselves, for our family, for our neighbors, for our nation, but we stop there. So we have to change our, let's say, the shame as our mindset on who we are responsible for. And once spirituality with love at its center, it helps us do that, because we are embracing the others and we are encompassing the others. And once we do that, what does that imply? That implies then that when we create the balance sheets and the income statements, it means that we will have their space that, okay, we will not do this project because in 30 years' time, our children will not have water to drink. So we will introduce this way of thinking in the way we make our calculations. in that sense. And this is a big change, because that implies that, of course, we will change also the system, because the problem that most corporations have is that they have every 3 months they need to present their earnings. And in this case here, it's not about the earnings now, but it is about safeguarding the rights and the well-being of the future generations and of the people and of the animals. We cannot actually raise their voice. I hope that answers the question.
It's very expanding.
Exactly. Yes. But this is also what spirituality is about, isn't it, Jody?
Well, it is. I mean, it's our ethical principles are built on our fundamental values. And so the values of what we call altruistic love in spiritual leadership are get at that: integrity, humility, compassion, patience, courage, honesty. All of these are values that are inherent in the world's 5,000 years of the world's wisdom traditions. I mean, we didn't think this up, and that was our initial early research. And so, to the extent we have these values, and we develop many, there are many practices that you'll talk about in a second, Aušra, that one can adopt to develop these values. But once these values are in place and we truly are more other-centered and we truly do want to go out and serve others and be caring and compassionate and through love, well, then these ethical principles, which are basically moral principles, will emerge. They're emergent from an inner life practice. And so, but I think the contribution that Ella and I make in our work on global leadership for sustainability is that this has never been articulated in this way. And now that it's articulated, we have just like here, it's one reason for this podcast, is we're able to articulate this, generate dialogue, and hopefully action, ultimately.
What would you recommend for any leader who has a passion for sustainability?
Well, I think this, of course, would assume that they're already, well, it really depends on where they're at. One of the things about this work, especially working in spirituality, but this is also true of in the world of sustainability. I'm also chair of the board of the One Planet Education Network, and we work with various sustainability-focused networks around the world. And basically what we do is interact with them and have dialogue and help them surface issues where our fellows who make up the community within Open can engage them with perhaps models, methods, tools, educational. Many of these networks already are engaging in that, but they need a sense of direction. And so there's different stages. The first stage is just eco-literacy. What's sustainability? I want to make a difference. What is it? So the first is eco-literacy. And then after that, and of course, then what the neat thing about working in sustainability is that the purpose is in the DNA of sustainability. People come and want a better world. They want to deal with the social injustices in the world. They want to make a difference in climate, or whatever it is. So this is one reason I really love working in this area. I don't have to, have them do a personal mission statement to figure out what their vision in life is. I mean, they've got that. And so they have this passion, they learn about it. And then one of the issues is, what can I do? And so one of the biggest challenges in this is, how do we move passion to action? Mm-hmm. How can we move passion to action? And how can this action be in the way that we're describing here? And this is one of the challenges in the sustainability world, is so much demonization and so much anger. And of course, basically what this, it creates us and them instead of we. It's I and you instead of us and we. And so that can only come through a awakening or a sense of consciousness about our own selfish interest being paramount in this purpose. And so until this is investigated, or until we're even aware of it, no real advances in sustainability are going to take place because of all the demonization. If you've got people who are dedicated to the paradigm, it's called the neoliberal paradigm of maximizing shareholder wealth today, as we are in this country, this battle is going on right now, versus ESG, environmental, sustainability, governmental, which is the triple bottom line or investment approach, and all the demonization that's going on with that. We're talking past each other. There's no common ground for dialogue, and at the heart of that is the starting point of all of that is recognizing that we're human beings and not human doings or havings, and therefore we all have the fundamental dignity inherent in our humanness, or being one in humankind. And so, these are the issues in terms of, what needs to be done. And so when you kind of look at it from this point of view, you've got, well, here we have, here's some ideas for perhaps a solution to bring us together, not only one planet, but one people. But it all comes back to the 5,000 years of wisdom tradition that basically says you've got to go inward to find a strength or a power greater than yourself to move beyond your own egoic programs of happiness to where you really can care about other people enough to really make a difference. Because people know if you don't care and if you're being used. And they're not, we all want to be happy. That's universal. It's a universal desire everyone has is what is the good life? How do I lead a good life? And how do I be happy? And ultimately what the wisdom traditions say is we become happy by caring about and serving others, because this is where that sense of purpose comes from. And we need to be loved and cared about in a community as we come together to do that. So in effect, we've come full circle.
But I would like to add something to that also, Jody, if I may, Aušra. What you said before about this demonization, I think the reason that the way that this demonization is created is also because we human beings, we're very much used to think about what is right and what is wrong. That is using this idea of ethics of justice. This is right, this is wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, so we are polarized. And this is also where I think through the ethics for sustainability, we move into an ethics of care. An ethics of care where actually what is more important, it is how we go beyond this division right and wrong, because this is mental in a sense. And we come down to the level of the heart, and there it comes, what you mentioned, Jody, what you said about this heart, that is, we are one species, and we are the same, and this creates unity. So if we don't leave also from the ethics of justice to move into the ethics of care, there will always be, let's say, a mental way to create this division among the people. And I read something the other day, I have it here. There is a German philosopher, Martin Heidegger, who talks about care. What is care? It is attention to one's presence in the world. It is not just about the leader's or organization's self-interest. It's also about attention, solicitude, and active involvement with the others. That's what I wanted to share.
This is very much true what you are telling, Ella. And but I have one question. We may wish to care, but still we may feel like, not able to do this. And this leads me to this journey we need to undertake. It's not like from going mentally from, I don't want division anymore. I want to a world that is a better place for everyone. But still, when I go out from my home, I see my ego is there. All my best resolutions, they are on the ground. And so this implies a sort of journey undertaking, working inside of you just to be able to give this to the world. Jody, could you tell us more about the spiritual journey?
Well, Aušra, I think maybe the first thing that might help me in answering that question is for you maybe to share the work you've been doing with spiritual leadership, because I think in many ways it is exemplar of that, and maybe it might help our viewers to understand better rather than me give my academic description of it. So please share the really cool work that you've been doing there in Lithuania with spiritual leadership.
Thank you, Jody. The first time I learned about spiritual leadership, it was back in 2015, and I really found articles written by you and the spiritual leadership model that I was really fascinated. And then I did my research. And I felt deep down in my heart that I wanted to continue with the topic. And I started last year, thanks to you, Jody, in inviting me to Academy of Management and Management, Spirituality and Religion group. I got many people supporting me. And what I thought and started doing is to taking this model, these 3 essential things that you talked at the very beginning of our podcast: inner life dimension, purpose dimension, and community dimension, into practice, to convert it, what namely it means, how to live it, and how it works. So I'm arranging seminars where mainly I go to foster this inner dimension through various practices that help, first of all, to me, to foster my inner life, because as I said it just a few minutes ago, it's I may have very bright ideas, very good wishes, but I have sometimes will that is very weak. I don't have strength. So first of all, what I do myself, I take care of my inner life. And that's what I see that makes a huge difference. So in these workshops and seminars, I invite people to look how they could take care of this, and how this, we see how this influences these 2 dimensions, the purpose of my life, of my professional life, as well as my personal life, and then the community, the membership, the love, because we are all very much interconnected, as Ella said, not only we 3 that we are talking right now, not only our neighbors, people of our town, but all the world around, even we don't see, we are really in connection. So, so then inviting.
Aušra, just for a second, could you elaborate a little bit on your personal inner life journey, your own inward? I mean, everyone is different for every individual, but could you just expand on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, sure. I have some practices, and I'm very much happy to share them with you. For example, every morning I get up early in the morning and I do a passage of reading from the Holy Bible, and that helps me a lot. I just read a few lines and I meditate on them, and it always opens new horizons, new ideas to me. Then I do my journaling practice in the morning, 3 pages of writing whatever comes to my mind. Usually it's dark thoughts, that I have I have questions I don't know the answers, or I have some bad feelings. I put them on these pages, and what I follow the book of Julia Cameron, and she advised these morning pages practice that helps to clear my mind. I put all my even nightmares, whatever, on these pages that I burn later, and then I have my mind a little bit clearer for the day, for the ideas that may come up, for people that I could have attention to them. I left them everything bad on my pages, but sometimes some inspirational things come up, some ideas, or even sometimes they turn into prayer. So I have no agenda for this, but it's very, very helpful. And then I do different movement practices. Last year I discovered spiritual dancing, because I am Catholic, I'm practicing, and I say, we pray, on knees or sitting, and our body gets, like tough. It's not, we are created for a movement. And I started searching, and I found spiritual dancing, that I can express my unity with the Creator through movement. It's very much enriching. So this is also what I am introducing, dancing or movement practices into my workshops, because it opens up our mind, our capacity for various things. And I also love nature. I go walking in the forest. I live near the forest, so as much as I can, I go there. I see the trees, the birds. I go different, I leave home and I come back different every time. I see a difference, because the nature gives me strength. And as I mentioned, I'm Catholic, so all my faith practices help very much nurture my inner life. So, and also, by the way, this year I am undertaking inner development program. It's a Christian program, of a healing program. So I'm going through dark nights, through different periods, but it's to heal my inner wounds that I have from my childhood, from my past experiences. All this to be more free, to be more open, to be more able to do things that I'm called to do. If not, I have like a wall that is not letting me go through. So these are my practices, but there can be so many. People can find whatever suits them, whatever helps to transcend my ego and have a connection with the Creator. If I believe that there is God, or if someone is not a non-believer, with some transcend my ego to find love, to find caring. So this is what I do.
That's wonderful. And then thank you for sharing that. That's really moving, and I think a great illustration. And so this is your source of strength. Now, I interrupted you, but now would you describe how you bring this into the work you're doing?
So I invite people to do these same practices. For example, a few days ago, I had a workshop, and I did some it was a short workshop, and I invited people to think about their purpose. It was for school teachers, about their purpose in life, in their professional life. And I invited them to do some movement practice. I put some music and gave them a candle in their hand. They lit their candle and they had to move around with this candle for a short time, thinking about their professional path. And afterwards, they moved around. Some of them even took off their shoes. And after that, I asked them to share what they had and what they experienced. And they said they were so calm. They said, and I saw some tears in their eyes. And they said, well, we would like to stay still, because it was so moving. And later on they shared. So they brought them various thoughts about their professional life, about being in community with others, because they were with other people and they joined with their lights. So I'm going through, this is an example how to go through simple things, but that would open people their minds and would inspire them to go deeper into it. Or we had a vision for one community. They wanted to have a vision of their community in 5 years. So before that, we did some dancing, did a dance of joy, and afterwards, I took them through visualization practice into some place where they enjoy being, and then afterwards, I took them through their town, through their small town, how it would look in 5 years, in 10 years. And then when they came back, I asked them to say it, and I put on the paper. It was a fantastic vision of their small town. So so this is how I do. I know these 3 dimensions that you, Jody, talk about, and they are very important, because like 3 legs of a table, if one is missing, you could double check whether it's correct or not, and the one leads to the other. And at the same time, in your model, you talk about triple bottom line. So as I did in my research, it's very important that what we do would be effective, that we would earn, that businesses would earn money, that we would have work done, that it's not that we are good and nice dancing and doing different things, but that it would convert into our work and we could make it better, we could earn profits and support nature and people that we live with. So,
well, I think what we've just heard is a great example of the spiritual leadership, global leadership for sustainability model grounded in, inner life practice and the 2 ethical principles. It's a great illustration of that. I mean, you're dedicated to, but ultimately the spiritual journey is about, and it never happens. There's a point, and many people run up to this. Sometimes it's called hitting the wall or the bottom. Recovery groups, Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about hitting bottom. But it's where we hit this place. Many people hit it at middle age. We hit this place where our pursuit of happiness in the external world is really a source of misery rather than happiness. And this is based on our egoic programs of happiness that we learn early in our lives, because early in our lives, Father Thomas Keating talks about this in a little book called The Human Condition. In our early lives, our egos are formed by, we have to satisfy 3 fundamental needs as infants. to survive, the need for safety, security, power, control, and affection and esteem, and how those come together depending on our environment, and then on top of that, and where we are, our cultural conditioning. This sets into place our ego. And these are based out in the world. And so these egoic programs of happiness are ultimately programs for misery, because happiness can only be found inside. So first of all, to embark on the spiritual journey, one must hit this wall and then be willing, most people are not, to look at themselves. And the greatest example of the process to do that are the 12 steps of recovery. All religions have that also, but it's the simplest one in terms of laid out to do. But regardless, it requires this inner journey. It's this inner journey of self-discovery. Often you need a mentor or a guide or a companion to help you. A spiritual director in recovery is called a sponsor. It's a mentor who has experienced this journey and wants to share this journey. You can share this journey with, and this is and in this journey we begin to discover the fruits of the Spirit, which is basically that we can have a sense of joy, peace, and serenity independent of our circumstances, and we have models, methods, and tools to recognize to help us become conscious that perhaps we've slipped back. I mean, we're human. It's not like you flip a switch or climb the stairs. And so that's the essence of the spiritual journey, moving from our own self-centered propulsion to try to find happiness in this world, to move to a more grounded in a sense of consciousness, to truly go love and serve others, create a community around a common purpose. And then the wisdom traditions say that's where true happiness is. And this is just what you described in terms of sustainability, the global leadership for sustainability model. You have your own practice. It doesn't have to be religious, but then it informs your work. And through this, you engage people in dance or other movements, which is certainly a spiritual practice. But in doing so, you engage them to one, think about the environment, their town, their community, and that engages that purpose, and then getting a sense of doing this as a community within your workshop. So you're in effect giving them this experience of spiritual leadership, not only spirituality and spiritual leadership, but focused on sustainability, which is where I's work is at right now. That's what we're all about. And that's one reason we wanted to sit and talk with you, so that you could share that. It's really awesome, awesome work.
So thank you both for being close to me and helping me to advance in this journey, and for sharing these ideas on global leadership for sustainability. That it was always in my mind that spirituality has some connection to sustainability, and it has a very deep connection and very straightforward connection, because it's deep inside of the sacredness of us as human beings, in animals, in the nature. So you made a very all-encompassing model that is a very good invitation to foster sustainability. Jody and Ella shared a little bit of what their model is and what they advise. So the ones who would like to go deeper into it, I will share the articles they wrote about global leadership for sustainability in the comments field. So you can access it and read it and go deeper into it. And if you would like to connect, we are here. You can find us on LinkedIn, and we are always very happy to talk with you. So
thank you, Aušra.
Thank you for inviting us, Aušra. It's a pleasure.
Yes.
So thank you for listening, and let's keep in touch.